Hi everyone, in this lecture we are going to talk about CSS Attribute Selectors. Now so far we have covered 3 of the 5 major selector families or selector groups in CSS. We have already talked about simple selectors and pseudo class, which are technically selectors, and pseudo elements, which are also selectors. Now what we are going to do is we are going to talk about the next big topic in CSS, and that is attribute selectors. Attribute selectors of CSS allow us to select HTML elements not based on their name, but their names, element names, but based on their attributes. Now keep in mind, HTML IDs and HTML classes are technically attributes. They are different attributes, different kind of attributes, as opposed to, let's say, a form input that we had, which had a type of text. Type equals text is also an attribute, but you cannot just go ahead and write either hash type or dot type to select it. You need to grab a specific syntax and put it there. But when it comes to ID and classes, they are exceptions. You can select them individually without diving into attribute selectors. So again, technically IDs and classes, because they appear in the opening tag of HTML elements, they are technically attributes. So let's create some HTML content for us. I'm going to say h1, and I'm going to give it an ID, hence the number sign, and I'm going to say main-title. The content is going to say gross length. Okay, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to say a paragraph. I'm going to give it 2 classes. The first class is going to be main-para. The second class is going to be para. When something has 2 classes, it means that one class is going to be shared across multiple paragraphs. Keep that in mind. And the other class, which is more unique, that is going to be used to apply styles on this specific paragraph element. And let's just provide a later. Oops. Para. And I'm not going to have a lot of content here. Let's create a form as well. How can we talk about attribute selectors without talking about forms? There we go. So I'm going to have an input that is going to have a type of text, and the placeholder is going to be full name. And I'm going to have a page break, another page break. And then we are going to have an input type of email. And the placeholder is going to say email, page break, and page break. Oops, why do I keep doing that? And the final one is going to be input with the type of password. The placeholder is going to say password. And that's it. Let's save that. So this is our HTML. Let's dive into CSS. So to select an element by their ID or class, it is a better practice to select them via their IDs and classes and not through attribute selectors. But you can select them using the attribute selector syntax because, again, at the end of the day, IDs and classes are attributes. Again, it's not considered a best practice to select IDs and classes using attribute selectors, but you could do that as well. In case you were eager to do it, this is how you would. So the syntax, I'm going to zoom in for this. So the syntax for an attribute selector is a couple of square brackets. That's it. After you have provided this, go ahead and select whichever attribute it is that you like. So you want this attribute, you want to select this attribute. You're going to copy that. Basically, you want to select the element that contains this attribute. Copy that and put it right here. That's it. Open the declaration block. That's how simple it is. Was it this much? No, that is a lot for. So I'm going to say font size, 55 pixels. Text align, let's put it to center. And font family, let's put it to Arial. Save that. There we go. You can see it has been selected and styled. So again, square brackets. Grab the class. Now keep in mind, when there are 2 classes, you cannot just filter out one class. You need to select this entire thing. Otherwise, it's not going to work because you're selecting it based on the attribute. You don't care what the value for the attribute is. It doesn't matter if there are 100 class names here. Just select all of them. It's going to look messy, but that is the way you have to do it. Text align justify, font size 20 pixels. And then we have line height is going to be 1.4. Now 1.4, it doesn't have any unit. It means that it is in relation to the HTML font size. The font size of the root element. We are going to come back to the font size of the root element when we get to creating our projects, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit. The font size of the root element is 16 pixels. If you say 1.4, it's 1.4 times 16 pixels. That's how many pixels the line height is going to be. We are going to come back to that later when we get to our projects, the root, because we are going to change that from 16 pixels. Now, let's talk about input. I'm going to give them a font size of 18 pixels. This is going to be applied on all three inputs. Padding of 15 pixels, just to make them look a little bit better. None and border, none. There we go. So we are going to end up with this. Now, attribute selectors are a common way to select HTML input elements because that's actually a very, very common thing that we do in web development. You could provide, again, you could provide classes and IDs for your inputs, but you could do them, select them with attributes as well. So I'm going to say I have an input. The input, let's say you want to select them by their type. So just go ahead and copy that attribute. Again, if there are a space between two attributes, it means that there are two separate attributes. This is how you separate attributes if an HTML element has more than one. Put it there. And you're going to say border right, 1 pixel, solid, and then 555. Okay, this is border radius. This is border right. And you could also provide it with a border bottom. Let's save that. So this is what we actually created here. I'm going to select the one that has a type of email. I'm just going to copy these just to speed up this process a little bit. So this is the type email. For this one, I'm going to provide only one value, and that is going to be border left. And finally, for the password, I'm going to provide right, top, and bottom. So we have right and bottom. Let's provide a border top. 1 pixel, solid. You're going to see what we are going to end up with. There we go. So this is what I actually did here. We have padding, 18 pixels. Okay, so let me just take a look at this. Why do we have spaces there? Bottom right. Let's say margin 0. Okay, it's not. Okay, this is because of the page breaks that we have provided. Okay, let's get rid of these. You know what? I'm just going to provide one page break. So that's better. Let's save them. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to remove this margin 0. Okay, so we have full name, then we have email, and then we have password. This is how you can basically style them with attribute selectors. That's it for this lecture. See you in the next one.